Ladies and gentlemen,
welcome to the show. It's Movie Wire time. Oh, the Movie Wire. Bring the firing squad. Bill, Justin. Give the finger or laugh or smile. It's time to find out. No more waiting. So here we go. The Sultan of Cinema. The gumshoe of review. Here is Justin Henson. Let's start the show. Let's go.
welcome to the Movie Wire.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Movie Wire. I'm your host, Justin Henson, and welcome to the show. We got a big show this week with 4 brand new movies, with 4 brand new reviews, with 1 playing in theaters, 2 that you can stream right now, and 1 early review. This week on the show, do not overlook the anomalies. Turn back in this video game adaptation of Exit 8. The truth will set you free. But first, it's going to ruin your life in the Apple TV exclusive Outcome. It's down to the wire in this early review of Fuze that releases in theaters on April 23rd. And finally, if the blood doesn't kill you, sitting through this movie will in the Netflix exclusive Thrash. We've got a lot to cover this week, so let's jump right in. Ready for my verdict? Let's get into it.
Out of the windows, what? A roar and a bursting of flame. The Movie Wire Podcast.
There it is.
With just meet people like me.
The podcast for hot and trending movies.
The Wire.
And here we go.
When a Category 5 hurricane decimates a coastal town, the storm surges bring devastation, chaos, and something far more frightening. Hungry sharks in the Netflix original Thrash.
Man, that's coming in fast.
Must be a big one.
The National Hurricane Center has issued hurricane surge warnings for this area.
Just breathe.
They're saying it could be a Category 5.
That's what they always say, and then everything turns out to be fine.
Jesus Christ. Lisa! Get your high ground! Go, go!
Several towns are cut off from any rescue attempts. We're sending our prayers to the people of those towns. I can't imagine the dangers they're facing.
There's no people, no car.
Just a little bit away.
Sharks on the loose in the Category 5 storm. Let's move!
I am not gonna have him die before he gets to take his first breath. Here they come!
Bet you never saw this on Shark Week.
You know, Netflix is like a love interest that every time you feel you're getting closer to be locked into something that's great, you give that person all of your attention. You wish nothing but the best for it. And then right when you think you're about to get all the greatness you've been waiting for, you get the friend zone. Thrash is a cinematic friend zone. It takes us on a ride of ups and downs right when it has something going for it. It breaks us down into utter disappointment, where by the end of its attempt at a teaser for more to come, we have learned our lesson and tell ourselves, I'm not going to be fooled again. Thrash kicks us off fairly quickly to the dangers to come with our characters and their conflicts, including Dakota, played by Whitney Peak, who recently lost her mother and has a version of agoraphobia, where we see in her introduction scene attempting to order a burger, but to find out that the restaurant is closing due to the hurricane that's coming in. But she is told that the local grocery store is still open and she can walk there. Now, here is where we are off to a good start. We have a character that's interesting with a conflict and some natural feeling stakes of a storm coming in and Dakota having to make a decision in the midst of danger to go against her inner feelings. Along with that, Whitney Peaks gives a good performance here. It's just the story works against her. Now, Dakota is just one of 3 groups in Thrash that introduces characters that are all interesting in their own way, along with their conflicts. We have Lisa, played by Phoebe Denevor, who gets trapped in a car on the road in the middle of a hurricane. We have a trio of kids, Dee, Ron, and Will, played by Elia Brown, Stacey Clausen, and Dante Abaldi, who live with their questionable guardians. Each of these handful of characters are interesting in their own ways with some decent performances. Anytime we spend time with them, just like a relationship, we want more. But then comes the problem. We have to insert sharks, and not just insert them, make them a spectacle that takes away from the good this movie is trying to do. It's almost like Thrash borrowed sharks from Sharknado, and the sharks swoop in faster than a Sharknado. These sharks are the party crashers that come in at the exact perfect time as the fun police and say, nope, not on my watch, never. This is Netflix. We tease fun without actually having fun. These bull sharks on cocaine seem to know exactly where to be at any given moment to spoil the fun of what's really working with this movie. And our writer-director, Tommy Wirkola, has an overconfidence in the shark concept and post-production effects when he should have more confidence in his writing and cast. Because when the movie wants to be good, it does a decent enough job where there isn't cheap-looking CGI sharks or even uneven rain that doesn't seem to fall on our characters when they are outside most of the time. The effects is what bogs this movie down. Sharks look fake and cheap, and the hurricane looks threatening when Wirkola doesn't feel the need to zoom in on the characters, where we can see the flaws. But when he pans out to see the power of this hurricane, it is effective. Now, Wirkola knows how to have fun with his writing, from Dead Snow to directing Violent Night and Dead Snow. He has shown in the past to have a good execution of vision, and it baffles me how he let his standards down to loosen that fun factor and vision of good. Here, he owns both the writing and directing, and I can imagine this is the final product he had in mind. Now, in fairness, this could be a budget issue, but this is where you either have to have a realistic budget to execute vision or pivot to something that actually works. If Wirkola limited the shark scenes where we already know they're there, we already know that's a stake. And if he focused more on our traits of our characters and their situations to build around the shark conflict, that would have, 1, saved money, and 2, been way more interesting and entertaining. I would have just liked this movie as a hurricane survival movie and left the sharks out completely and altogether. I would have probably liked it a lot more, but then we probably wouldn't have an excuse to get our shark expert character that brings in the amazing Jimon Hansu. But again, we get that Netflix friend zone where he is just wasted here. We get teases of something better with him, and then it just fizzles away. This is almost a character inserted just to have a known actor on the cast to ensure it doesn't feel like a straight-to-streaming generic film. And to an extent, the film has enough to make it just slightly above average of a generic streaming feel, but not by much. There are times where it can be suspenseful, there are times we can feel the stakes, there are times our eyes are glued to the screen, and at times, it does look good. Just not with the shitty sharks. Thrash is an elevated straight-to-video quality film that adds in good performances, some okay stakes and suspense, but by the time we get to the climax, that feels misguided, where we are confused what it wants to be. We are already bored. we already feel cheated. But the one thing that really holds this film together is our characters. And at least our writer-director Wakola gets that right on how to write a character that is interesting, that could hold the movie together for the entire runtime. And it's a shame he didn't realize that while shooting. And for that, I'm giving Thrash 2 stars. A man trapped in an endless sterile subway passageway sets out to find Exit 8. The rules of his quest are simple. Do not overlook anything out of the ordinary. If you discover an anomaly, turn back immediately. If you don't, carry on. Then leave from Exit 8. Sounds simple, but even a single oversight will send him back to the beginning. Based on the video game comes Exit 8.
This white corridor that loops, this very sanitized space, felt like Dante's Divine Comedy, this idea of purgatory. What if human sin manifested itself and was reflected back upon the player? And I thought that would make for a very unique movie. I commute in the Tokyo subway system every day to go to the office, and I'll notice on the train everyone is staring at their smartphones. Even within their smartphones, they won't even notice wars and violence happening on the other side of the screen. We're all guilty of looking at something but not truly seeing it. That little guilt accumulates and is reflected back upon us in the form of anomalies. And when faced with that, do you choose to keep moving, or do you notice the anomaly and turn around? I had the chance to talk to Nintendo's Miyamoto Shigeru. He said really good games will, of course, entertain the players, but as much as they will, they'll also entertain the people watching the players and watching what the players doing. There are the people who simply play the games, and there are those who stream the games and those who watch the streamers. I thought if we can capture the feeling and the different layers and put it into a film, it would really be something that is an experience we haven't seen before.
Now, other than being based on a video game, this year's Iron Lung and now Exit 8 has a lot in common. First, they are both seclusion survival games that rely on a singular character to drive the movie. The next is both stretch a concept way too long. Iron Lung at just over 2 hours, and here, even though only 95 minutes, still feels stretched. But lastly, both of the movies made me play each game in pure entertainment for hours. I can see why they were made into movies, and Exit 8 in its gameplay feels more like a better concept to be turned into a movie than Iron Lung. But I did enjoy my time playing the Iron Lung game more than I did Exit 8. But at the same time, Exit 8 is a much more meaningful movie with layers of depth beyond just being caught in a subway loop. Now, our main character, the Lost Man, played by Kazumiya Nomiya, who is caught in an unexplained phenomenon where he is stuck in a repeating subway corridor, where he must spot anomalies to reverse his walk to move on to the next level to reach Exit 8. And any mistake makes him drive back to the beginning. This includes changing or adding signs or posters, blood, rats, and even traps of hope. That I will leave out of this review, but involves a character called the Walking Man, who the Lost Man has to walk by each round with no reaction most of the time from our Walking Man. Now, at times the movie seems to linger in purgatory, but that is the purpose of the film, because the movie gives hints right from the get-go about stuck in a routine of society and society anxiety, where we all get stuck in our own world and a routine that seems to be on repeat. From an opening scene where a man on the subway is yelling at a crying baby where nobody says or does anything but stare at their phones. Exit 8 sets the pretense of what we should be thinking during the anxiety of getting lost, more specifically, getting lost in ourselves. That during its runtime tries to push our Lost Man out of his comfort zone with tests including tests of morality. Director Genki Kamamura creates a simplistic but impactful setting to respect the game to a T, but also engage the audience to find clues themselves and play along with our Lost Man. Our writers Hirase Kentaro, along with our director Kawamura, stay tuned to the game with a more amplified direction to ensure the themes are always present. Now, as I said in the beginning of the review, that both this and Iron Lung feels drawn out, but that is because it is a slow burn of emotional crescendo from our Lost Man Demonia that seems to be stuck in a loop and understands that assignment. But we get less emotional push that we get from another character that again I will leave out for you to discover, where I wanted more from our lost man, an emotional push, an arc that isn't situational from the anxiety loop. And we do get a satisfying ending that puts the stamp on the messaging, but I needed a little bit more in the second act from the character himself versus just inviting situational reactions. But the movie speaks truth to having life turns us complacent into a social loop of life with technology to be support or anchor, if you will, to this. Where we get a scene where our lost man looks at his phone where it randomly rings during the loop, and it's out of nowhere. And in his seclusion and obvious frustration, decide to not engage on the first ring, even with him losing hope of not getting out of the loop. This is a powerful moment for those that are engaged in the themes and not just looking at this as a video game adaptation. Exit 8 taps into self-realization of tension, and by the time we get to the final second, we ponder our life and our routines and the concept of us in charge of breaking our own loop, or complacency, or routine in society. It's an important message that the movie delivers in a subtle way because complacency creeps up in subtlety in life, and when it comes to survival, we have to go back to human instincts, and it takes reminders to bring us back to how to survive. I love the fact Exit 8 doesn't give any temptation of telling us what the loop is and allows us to say it's purely life itself without feeding us the messaging. Exit 8 is not only a subtle film, but it's an impactful one, in which we can hardly say that ever about any video game adaptation. It does miss an emotional arc to add believability from our lost man, which drags the movie down a little bit, but it's supplemented by a subtle score by Eso Ememori and Yustaka Nakata. And at the end of the day, this is a video game movie that not only makes you think, it makes you want to play the game, and that's a rarity. So I'm giving Exit 8 3 stars.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
Now, before we get into the rest of the show, make sure you check out my reviews for movies that just became available to rent, buy, or stream now.
Now available on video cassette.
Everyone deserves a second chance, except reminders of him, that I never want a reminder of this film to receive 1.5 stars. Be afraid of the silence because it wants to be heard. In Undertone, that was an underwhelming paranormal experience to receive 2 stars. Elvis Presley like you've never seen before. In Epic, Elvis Presley in concert, that was a refreshing experience of the king himself receiving 4 stars. Here comes the motherfucking bride in The Bride that I wish actually had some better fucking things to say to receive 2.5 stars. Meet your new nightmare, he's coming for you, but you will be okay if you just leave the theater or turn it off. In Psycho Killer that received 1.5 stars. You're never too small to dream big in the animated film Goat that actually was the goat to receive 3.5 stars. Meet Linda, she's from Strategy and Planning, and she's the boss now in Sam Raimi's Send Help, which I'm glad I didn't need to send help for this film, receiving 3 stars. Dream big in Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie that I knew nothing about, but it's so dumb to be good to receive 3 stars. Flaming Fury in Avatar Fire and Ash that again is one of those movies that it's hard not to take the visuals, music, and theater experience into consideration, but it won't be on my rewatch list, but it's enough to give it 3 stars. Burn it all down, and another entry to the Scream franchise comes Scream 7, which was simplistic, looked fantastic, but we are really running out of villain ideas here, guys, but still a fun time to receive 3 stars. Be with me always, take any form, drive me mad, which defines my review. You had me in the first act, then I asked it to be a different movie, and it ended with driving me mad with frustration and Wuthering Heights that received 2 stars. Sometimes heartbreak is only the beginning, with Kevin James being left at the altar in Solo Mio. That hits all the right notes for a rom-com written by dudes, and a movie that makes that clear, receiving 2.5 stars. Their shift has hit the fan, and if it spreads, you're dead in Cold Storage that teeters on the fun factor but never really gets there, receiving 2.5 stars. You're not prepared for what's about to go down, and I sure wasn't, and good luck, don't die, have fun. That damn it was a lot of fun, receiving 3.5 stars. Revenge brings a revelation into The Strangers Chapter 3 that it should be a revelation to the filmmakers to stop fucking making these movies, receiving half a star. The future of criminal justice is artificial intelligence in Mercy, where we spend a couple hours staring at Chris Pratt until we say, Lord have mercy, as it over, receiving 2.5 stars. A hidden life, a dangerous past, a storm closing in is the generic tagline to any other fucking Jason Statham movie. That even for a Jason Statham movie was below par, receiving 1.5 stars. You live here now and return to Silent Hill, which will be the tagline if I end up in hell, followed by an eternity of watching Return to Silent Hill, receiving half a star. Anything the police in a vampire movie that truly does suck, and Night Patrol that received 1 star. Discover what's behind closed doors, and just like my dreams, is Sydney Sweeney in an actual good movie in The Housemaid that received 3 stars. Volunteers needed in another zombie apocalypse movie that actually attempts a message and is marginally successful in We Bury the Dead that got a marginal recommendation at 3 stars. Have you been exposed in a movie that was a big snub at the Oscars this year, but tackles adolescent social commentary in The Fling that received 3.5 stars? It's not the size of the snake that matters, it's how long it plans to play with you, in which this movie spends the entire time playing with you thinking it's a good film, in Anaconda that received 1 star. They're back with a twist, and the biggest twist is that it surpasses the original film in Zootopia 2 that received 3.5 stars. A story about the people you love and how to survive them in a movie that was so bland and misguided I forgot I reviewed it in Ella McKay that received 1.5 stars. And finally, there's something wrong with Ben. He's dangerously close to human in Primate. That is primitive in logic, but who cares? It's a lot of fun that received 3 stars. You can check out those reviews on my previous episodes, and while you do, don't forget to hit follow or subscribe, and please don't forget to leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Now, before we get into the rest of the show, there is a podcast that not only do I listen to each and every week, but I tend to drop by from time to time. And that's with Josh and Alex over the Talking Smac Podcast. Make sure to tune in to the Talking Smac Podcast. A link to that show will be in the description of this episode. But let's hear from Josh and Alex over the Talking Smac Podcast now.
What's up, nerds? This is Josh from Talking Smac, where we talk superheroes, movies, animation, comics, and so much more. Every week, we break down the latest blockbuster movies, TV shows, revisit comic events. We even talk to comic creators like Kyle Higgins, Melissa Flores, and Matt Groom. And don't miss out on our Superhero Showdown episodes where we debate your suggestions on who would win in a fight, or maybe they might become friends. So join in on the conversation with me, Josh, and my co-host Alex every Wednesday on your podcatcher of choice. Look for our yellow and red icon, and we'll see you soon, Smackheads.
An unexploded World War II bomb is discovered on a busy construction site in the center of London. Chaos ensues as the military and police begin a mass evacuation against a ticking clock in this early review of Fuze, which releases April 23rd.
We've got an old bomb in central London.
World War II. Looks like a 1,000-pounder.
I'll see you on the dance floor.
Could it blow any minute?
Theoretically, yes.
This area is being evacuated.
Is there anything out there?
There's nothing going on out here.
We're on.
It's ticking.
Clear! Hard cover! No! Go!
Mom, look at this. I shouldn't be there.
Active message. It appears there's been a massive bank job on Edgware Road.
Repeat, massive bank job.
We've just been working in the sewer, boys. Got the stench to prove it.
What did you think was gonna happen?
Now, I want to be upfront. Don't let this movie fool you. This synopsis is from the first 30 minutes of the film. This is a movie that had a premise that could have been great, with a subplot that could have worked. But it was so eager to get to the zinger that it adds so much filler in after the fact to make it a full-length movie. And don't get me wrong, Fuze in its first 30 to 40 minutes has some good stakes to it, but it shoves all of these characters and moments into the first 30 minutes that we don't really have stakes in our characters to really care about the outcome. We recognize the situation, that a bomb can go off at any given moment, and this is terrifying. But everybody involved in this movie skips over us caring who's going to go up to the bomb, who may get blown up. Why should we care about these characters? It has stakes, but it doesn't have stakes in our characters. You almost get more excitement watching a breaking news story unfold on the news. Directed by David Mackenzie from Hell or High Water, and more recently Relay, in which here he follows the same formula build that leads to absolutely nothing, just like Relay, especially in tone. Mackenzie does have some great shots to capture the moment, if you will. But once all the interesting things happen and the premise is given away, Mackenzie has a hard time showing us anything interesting. Fuze stars Aaron Taylor Johnson, who plays Will Tranter, an officer in the Army who's in charge of detonating a bomb from World War II that was discovered by a construction company's digging site. The town is evacuated, which leads an opportunity for a group of criminals played by Theo James, Abil El-Lahabi, and Sam Worthington are in an apartment building next to a bank, and they have plans of robbing it. This is where the movie really focuses on and should be the actual description of the movie, because this is where it spends most of the runtime. And if the time was utilized well, then I wouldn't have an issue with it. But that is the theme of the movie. Rushing everything that is presented on screen, even up until the final moment of the film, where we tilt our heads back and ask, was that it? This is a movie that reminded me of two films. Speed, if we took out the introduction to the characters, and The Bus was only on the road for like 30 minutes, with a mix of 1998's Hard Rain when it comes to wasting its talent in a high-stakes environment. Sam Worthington in Fuze is wasted talent as Morgan Freeman was in Hard Rain. Character development is practically non-existent here, despite a good cast. Few of the characters are given enough depth to justify their screen time. They exist merely as props rather than people. Each is introduced with the promise or even potential of complexity, only to be reduced to predictable beats that feel lifted from better films. Each one is placed just to introduce a situational moment after situational moment, and that's it. When the inevitable tragedies or twists occur, it feels like devastating turns and more like plot checkpoints to ricochet this movie into an attempt of interest. This almost feels like the movie was spliced from 2 to 3 separate films or movie ideas. I wish I could say this movie needed to be longer to truly explore these characters, but the writing by Ben Hopkins is so segmented we can feel it on screen. And I found myself checking the time in an hour and 40-minute movie. This movie felt like it went on forever because we lose stakes early in the film to transition to stakes of bank robberies that really doesn't relate to any other character on screen. And when Fuze tries to course correct to tell the audience why we should care, it is too far gone. Now, the performances here we can see shine through the limp dialogue and situational moments where we like what we see when it comes to the talent. And that's what really makes us hold on hoping for something good to happen, not to the characters, but to the talent to give them something to work with. And in fairness, we do have moments. Again, moments that this happens, but it's not enough to save this movie. What this film really needed at its core was better writing and even music composition to really, at bare minimum, amplify the stakes that what we are seeing on screen. One would think that at least this should have been caught in post-production to say, this needs something more. This needs more intensity. And if this movie is already shot and a limp thriller is presented, this is where Mackenzie should have caught that this movie is missing something to at least take it up an octave in post-production. Fuze is a movie that I would have expected to be exclusively on streaming with how safe, generic, segmented, and forgettable it is. But with the talented cast and its few moments of stakes, it's an in-the-moment mild time waster to entertain some. But at the end of the day, it's a meh, forgettable thriller. I'm giving Fuze 2 stars. Hollywood star Reeve is forced to confront his problems and atone for his past after being threatened by a bizarre video footage from his past. Keanu Reeves stars in the Apple TV exclusive Outcome.
Reeve Hawk. For the last 4 decades, America's favorite movie star. Starring in 3 of the biggest franchises in film history. You've had 5 years off. I mean, how are you going to frame the 5 years thing?
I won't say that I was hiding a heroin addiction from the public, and that my best friend and my insane lawyer helped me cover it up for years.
That is a really smart omission.
Strong omiss.
Mm-hmm. The day I walked down the street I used to wander, yeah.
Bubby and Tyra, we got a big problem.
Here's a video.
What's on it?
I have no idea.
I need to know everyone who hates you. You need to go and apologize to them. And without them realizing it, feel out if they're the ones behind the video.
Who hates me?
Your old manager, your old trainer, your new trainer, your old pool guy, your old pool guys, your mom. Your mom hates you. Then I have like a separate list for like directors, actors, costume designers, hair and makeup people, craft service, whatever, and like executives that you've worked with if you want me to start on that.
Jesus Christ.
Now I'd like to introduce you to your new crisis team.
I pray to God you didn't say the word on that video.
What? No.
I know, he knows, we know.
You know, brother. But if you did, we're gonna hold hands and walk through the fire together, my brother.
I brush my shoes, and I hum from the baby.
Can I ask you something, Reeve?
Of course.
What are you sorry for?
How do I put this the right way? You're not a good person.
There was all these...
Mom, I have a lot to apologize to you for.
Sorry. Can we try that one more time, hon? The label wasn't cheated towards camera, and that was such a great emotional moment. I'm so touched, genuinely.
You're Reeve Hawk.
Reeve Hawk.
Reeve Hawk.
Reeve Hawk.
I wish you cared about what we thought of you, Reef, more than a bunch of people on the internet.
Why did you stay my friend? Why are you still here?
I ordered food and I already paid for it on the app.
The day I walked down the street I used to wander, yeah. Shook my...
What even is an apology, Reeve? Is it for you? Is it for me?
There was all these...
Isn't an apology just a show also?
Are you ready?
We're already started.
How lucky can one man get?
You know, Outcome reminds me of going to a party and not knowing anybody. You try and join in on a conversation, but most of the convos involved are inside jokes or past memories that you don't know how to contribute to the conversation. So you just stand there or sit there quietly and give off an awkward laugh here and there. If it wasn't for the on-screen likability of Keanu Reeves, Outcome would come across as a fully loaded cast whose sole intent is to stroke their egos for 90 minutes. This is a movie that is so fully packed of Hollywood, from Cameron Diaz, Jonah Hill, Matt Bomer, David Spade, to even Martin Scorsese, as they navigate around Keanu Reeves, who plays Reeve Hawk, a child star that grew up into the tragedy of success as he grows into a heroin addiction. Now sober and his career at its peak, he gets blackmailed with a threat to release a secret video that will crush his career. This is where Outcome attempts to fill in the gaps of self-discovery that, as a viewer, we can't really relate to the fame and fortune of Hollywood, but we have followed the stories, even with kids growing up in Hollywood and way too many times falling into addiction. Outcome almost tries to make us empathize with Hollywood actors, addiction, and cancel culture, but the film never really gets us there, because the characters are so unlikable. Even Reeves' likability couldn't save the character. It helps, but all the characters just seem to come across whiny and tries too hard to have the viewer care. At one point, our writer-director Jonah Hill, who also plays Reeve Hawk's lawyer or manager Ira, which a Hollywood lawyer and manager is already ew, but Jonah Hill goes all in on this character, who sports a big beard and horse teeth that he has to ensure is taking up most of the camera, each and every shot. Every single opportunity to show them off. But we have a particular scene that puts the stamp on how little we care. Ira introduces Hawk to his son, who is in a wheelchair at the movie's attempt to make this character somewhat likable. And even a disabled boy in a wheelchair standing next to Ira, this character by Jonah Hill, couldn't make him likable or even have me want to like this character or even try to like this character. Jonah Hill gives off an over-the-top performance, and I'm sure it's intentional, but I don't care. And I'm sure he is trying to portray the attitude of Hollywood, but I don't care. It seems he is the only one in on the joke. Anytime Hill is in the movie he's directed, his character never seems to land, just like 2023's You People. Here is a lot of the same. Hill needs to be directed or not be in his own movies because he doesn't get his own assignment. And don't get me wrong, Hill isn't a horrible director. 2018's mid-90s was one of my favorite movies that year, and it showed what Hill can do. But for the love of God, Hill, stop being in your own fucking movies. But the saving grace here is Cameron Diaz, who made her Hollywood return last year with Back in Action. And we will just call that Cameron Diaz stretching her legs to have a great performance here. Even though Outcome isn't a good movie, Diaz almost outperforms Reeves in believability. It's a role that Diaz, I think, could connect with being out of the game for close to a decade and then back in. She has a moment towards the climax that steals not only the scene, but the most memorable part of the movie, with the exception of Jonah Hill's horse mouth, that I'm pretty sure that Hill just reused the teeth from Wolf of Wall Street and asked the makeup to make them bigger. The real star of his character is his fucking teeth. It's a distraction on screen. But anyway, in this scene, Diaz, with her performance, stood with me after the movie, and it's because of Diaz's delivery that it stayed with me. And that involves a speech of friendship and caring. But nothing else in the movie will be remembered because it's just too hard to justify itself to why we should care about these characters. Literally, we could have had this great cast just take turns, up close shots saying, please like me over and over again for 90 minutes, and I would have found that to be more believable and a more honest movie than this. Hill's writing is so linear here on what he's trying to say and almost playing it too safe not to insult his peers or the studios that hire him. Let's make a Hollywood movie about Hollywood and A-list actors, but say nothing of purpose. By the time the credits rolled, I just shrugged and said, is that it? Was there any point to this film? Hill carefully maneuvers the topic of cancel culture where we can tell the movie leads up to, but for a movie with the stakes surrounding being canceled, Hill barely touches the surface. He barely addresses the depth to our Hawk character other than situational and dialogue that might as well just state, woe is me. We learn nothing about Hawk other than his past addiction. It's all situational, and it becomes repetitive and boring, which is why the movie probably can't even stretch to a full 90-minute runtime with a runtime at only an hour and 20 minutes. Outcome has the talent on board, but Hill does nothing with it. His screenplay does nothing with them, and the performances are either too weak or too much over the top, where even our talent doesn't even know how to handle this weak script. And the outcome is disappointing, and the outcome is also receiving 1.5 stars. And that's a cut on this week's edition of The Movie Wire. I want to thank you for listening and thank you for your support. You can also show support by following me on Instagram, Blue Sky, X, Thread, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and Letterboxd at Movie Wire Show. And please don't forget to leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And if you haven't yet checked out the Cult-Worthy Cinema Podcast and the Movie Wire's crossover show, Back to the Balcony, make sure you do. Again, the link of that show will be in the description of this episode. Until next week, do me a favor. Make sure you stay for after the credits to show the respect to those that put their blood, sweat, and tears into making a feature film and support your local movie theaters.
Thank you for bringing me to the movies.
Let the credits roll. We say farewell. Join us next time. We'll have more tales to tell.